Over the weekend, I was in Belgium to promote my book with the Albanian diaspora and curious foreigners. But I also had the great opportunity to meet Dorina Cani, who works with contracts and procurement for NATO, the Western Military Alliance. Not only is she extremely successful in what she does, but she has not forgotten her roots, and she has spearheaded a really interesting initiative to encourage defence industry in Albania and to actually encourage them to work with NATO. We sat down for an interview at the Albanian Cultural Centre right in the middle of Brussels called Shipville. Here's what went down. So first, you live in Brussels, but you're from Albania originally. How did this happen? Why did you leave Albania? When? How did you get into the job that you have now?
Okay, thank you for the interview. It's nice being here. I left Albania actually 20 years ago. It was a decision that was taken by our entire family, but my parents always wanted us to have a schooling abroad and to have degrees from the best universities in Belgium, and Belgium is known for the KU Leuven, where I've accomplished my studies in applied economic sciences. And since then, we've decided to live here. I've built up my own family. I'm happily married to my husband Erblin, who's actually also my partner in crime for the industry day we organized. And we also have 2 sons together, Marby and DR. Since 10 years, I've been working for NATO, more specifically for the NCIA agency, the NATO Communications and Information Agency, which is actually the principal provider of technical solutions for NATO. So we make it possible, the interconnection between deployable forces, the NATO commands, and NATO nations. It's a very interesting field, actually where I'm working. I work in public procurement. I'm responsible for all procurement actions, cradle to grave, from the moment where a capability package comes in until issuing the notifications of intent, negotiating with companies, signing the contracts, and administering the final contract.
So it's a very sensitive area. Not only are you working with something sensitive like communications in, on the ground crucial settings, but with companies to make sure they are legitimate, that they meet your standards, that they are going to make good on their contract, that the equipment is up to scratch, etc. It's a big responsibility, I think.
Indeed it is. It is actually a bad news that we currently have a war in our backyard, but on the other hand, NATO is increasing its defense capabilities by 230% by 2030, meaning that it is crucial that we engage with companies and industries from NATO nations to partner with us in order to fulfill alliance missions. Therefore, we need to foster communication with companies, to have a touch and feel of, on both sides actually, what they expect from NATO and what we expect from them. So that dialogue needs to happen in order to fulfill the alliance mission.
You recently organised an industry day in Albania, and this was born out of a realisation that Albania, even though it's been a member of NATO for 15 years, it's not sort of represented within the companies, amongst the companies that NATO works with. Can you elaborate a bit more about this, how you noticed it, why you noticed this, and what led up to this industry day that took place earlier in June?
Yeah. As I previously said, I work for the acquisition department since 10 years now, and I've been noticing a remarkable lack of Albanian companies in NATO tendering. So for me, it was actually a must to have this industry day. So although we are a member nation since 15 years now, we have never had the possibility to have an Albanian industry day. And being in that specific department where I could notice the lack of Albanian companies, I really felt the urge to engage with Albanian authorities in order to organize this day. And I'm very proud to say that it was a very fruitful event. We had many companies who participated and who are really eager to know how to do business with NATO. So on that specific day, we talked briefly on the work that our agency does, on the challenges that NATO is currently facing. But the major part of the presentation, which was given by me, was on how to do business with NATO. So we went in very practical terms on the different steps that companies need to follow to engage with us. Now afterwards, I realized that my presentation was kind of overwhelming, a handful of information, and therefore we had a slide which was very interesting with 5 crucial steps for the companies on how to do business with us. And I think if they will familiarize themselves a little bit with our business opportunities, what NATO is looking at currently, it's a good starting point for them to engage with us.
And what kinds of companies took part, and what kind of industries are there in Albania that can work with NATO? I mean, we're not, for people who are watching, they might think, oh, NATO, maybe it's like weapons and things like that. We're not talking about guns and battleships and things, are we? What sort of industries does Albania have already, and what companies which can seek opportunities with NATO and other similar sort of organizations?
Thanks for mentioning that, because the main reason I wanted to organize this industry day is to provide that information out there for Albanian companies that there is possibility to do business with NATO. I'm sure majority of Albanians and Albanian companies, they see NATO as the greatest military alliance who will defend us in case of an attack. But that's it. You stay kind of away from it. But it's much more than that. There are business opportunities out there. In the conference, we had many digital companies, startups, software companies, which are of a great interest for NATO. Also, construction companies were there. So it was a mixture of different companies, around 70 of them, which I was surprised. Yes. I was surprised to hear from the organizers that we had that many. And actually, they received requests for 200 participants, but because of the lack of room for everybody.
Are there any particular services that NATO needs that maybe an Albanian company could fill? You know, what does NATO need? You know, what services are they looking for? Are they constantly what gaps are there?
So, as I previously mentioned, I'm working for the NATO Communication and Information Agency. So all communication capabilities are needed. Satellite communications, IT communications, also consulting is needed as well, to have consultants help us with the increase of work that NATO is having currently. So I really do see room for participation of the Albanian companies in.
And do you think the geographic location of Albania has an important part to play in this as well? You know, we're in a very crucial place in Europe as well.
It does.
Is this
It does. Yes, indeed. If I take an example of the CIS equipment that we might need, the transportation costs would be lower for an Albanian company than a company, I don't know, Canada or US. So it makes it, in the end, cheaper for them to bring the product until the different NATO bases. So that can be a benefit on their side.
And after this industry day, which was a big success, what feedback did you get from these companies, these business owners? You know, what was their sort of response to the information that you gave?
Actually, I was very pleased to get many compliments on the day itself, the way we distributed information. I heard that it was clear and approachable, so I'm happy for that. And I also noticed during our conversations that what I had in mind actually before, yes, indeed, they didn't have that practical information on how to do business with us. So I've already been approached by Albanian companies that want to start engaging with us, and again, I'm trying to help them as much as they can, because I can understand that at the beginning it's a cumbersome process. NATO is large, it's bureaucratic, so we also have our rules that
strict standards and processes, maybe different to what these companies are used to.
Indeed, but what I also maybe worth mentioning here is the fact that what I also highlighted during my presentation. Of course, we have purchases of big capabilities which have great implementation phases, and maybe at this stage, I'm not expecting Albanian companies to engage in these type of procurements. But of course, we do have procurements of lower thresholds for which they can perfectly fit in 3 tenders, 5 tenders, which are also less complex in all the declarations that they need prior to engaging with us. Because if you go for big competitions, international call for bids,
you're competing with big names.
Big names, but also you need to have prerequisite certificates like the Declaration of Eligibility, which is a very important document.
Kosovo is not a member of NATO, but are they allowed to, are companies from Kosovo allowed to supply NATO, or does it only work with NATO members?
Unfortunately not. So participation, it's among, and competition is actually among NATO member countries.
It's a male-dominated industry. This defense sort of sector. NATO, I have friends, a female friend who works as a reporter. She follows NATO, and she has talked about how it can be quite a male-charged environment as well. You know, there's another Albanian woman who's working in producing military vehicles and things. Has this ever been an issue for you? Have you ever felt like you've had to fight your corner a bit more because you're female? Has it ever?
It is true that it's a male-dominated field, but we're doing more and more progress to include women in that field. I've noticed it a lot. And no, to be honest, I've never felt that need to push back, or no, I always felt respected among colleagues. So,
do you miss home? It's been 20 years you've been in Brussels. In Belgium.
I do. Actually, I have a double nationality. I'm Belgian as well, and I've been living longer in Belgium than Albania. But when they ask me about my nationality, I always say I'm Albanian because I feel Albanian in my roots. So yes, I do, definitely.
Do you think you'd ever go back, or is your life here now?
That's a tough question, Alice. When we first came, the aim was actually to finish our studies. That's what our parents always wanted, to finish our studies and go back home to use our skills and our knowledge that we've gained here in Europe. But then we built our own families. And this Albanian Day was, in a way, a promise that I made to kind of my country to help in a way to bring it back, that knowledge and expertise that I have. This Industry Day is kind of coming late because we are a member state since 15 years now. But on the other hand, it's coming on the right time. I might seem controversial, but it's coming late because we've been in the alliance for 15 years. It could have happened sooner, but it's in the right timing because NATO is increasing its defense spending. So we need companies from the NATO nations to engage with us and to provide solutions for the alliance. And also, I think the Albanian industry is more ready now than it was 15 years ago.
This is the thing. I was going to say, maybe 15 years ago, there wasn't the ideas there, that sort of thing. So now I think people are becoming more aware about tech and startups.
Of course,
they're more savvy and switched on. So maybe it will encourage other people as well. But yeah, with defense spending, and the EU as well are increasing their defense spending as well. So there's a lot of potential for countries.
It's unfortunate that we have to increase defense spending due to geopolitical factors, but on the other hand, let's see the positive side for the company. So
thank you very much, and well done for, you left, you made your life here, but you never forgot, and you're still trying to help, and this is really nice.
Thank you for the interview.